So, hello there, grade 11 students and parents, and welcome to the College Counselling Department. This is our first official launch or kick-off to the process of applying to universities and colleges. I know you'd have received some emails from us already, but this is the first chance you get to see us. So, my name is Mr. Forrester, a college counsellor, and
my name's Mr. Wickham. I'm really excited to be working with you all over the next year or two, and thank you for being here and watching this with us.
And as announced in the parent newsletter last week, we will also be having a third college counsellor, Mr. Sabanda, joining us from January onwards, which is just the right time for him to be working with you in person moving forwards. So today's agenda, the points that we're going to go through today is the roles and responsibilities of the three stakeholders, the student, the counsellor, which is us, the college counsellors, and the family as well. Then we'll be looking at the university application timeline itself, when you can expect to do certain things within the 2 years. We're going to talk about self-reflection. What are you looking for in both terms of a career, but also in terms of universities as well. We'll look at how to start the exploration process and talk about the idea of fit related to that and share a few tools and resources for you to get started.
So here in this college counselling office, we believe in the idea and the concept of fit. What is fit in this college counselling university exploration sector? Well, really, it's about finding a university, an institution, or a career path, it could be both, that meets the academic, emotional, geographical, social, and obviously financial needs of the student and their families. Now, that's a bit of a mouthful, but what does that really mean in person? It means really finding the place that the young person, that you, the student, is going to be successful. And success means lots of different things to lots of different people. It could be academic success, it could be personal development success, it could be being able to stay in a particular country and work after, and some countries' destinations are more aligned to allowing international students to do that than others. So there's lots of different factors that Mr. Forrester will go into a little bit later, but we really as college counsellors are aligned to this idea of fit and finding your fit in this whole process. So with this in mind, everyone has a role to play in exploring this idea of fit. We as college counsellors have a role to play, certainly you as family have a role to play, and of course this whole process is about the applicant. It's about you student in grade 11 right now. So we're here to support this process, your family here are to support this process, but this should be your journey, your exploration, it's your application, ultimately it's your future. So we try to put you at the centre of all of our discussions, and in order to do that, we expect a certain number of things from you, the applicant. All right, and we're just going to run through certain key attributes, roles and responsibilities for each of our parties now. So we really want you, the student, to be an idealist. All right, and what we mean by that is having an idea of what you really want. Okay, in an ideal world, I would be doing this. This is what I really want to strive for. This is really what I want to aim for. We want you to be that idealist. Okay, you should be the main driver of this process. You shouldn't be relying on the college counsellor or your family to do university research, to write your applications, to keep you on track. This is your process, and you have to be the main driver of this. All right? We expect you, we ask you to be up to date and engaged, of course. We ask you to be proactive and get organised as soon as possible in order to make sure that you have success down the line. So we really want you to be the idealist in this process. Right? Us as college counsellors, we're the realists. And what I mean by that is we need to ensure that you have thought about every option, that you've explored all the different options out there, but that ultimately that you're going to land on your feet somewhere that you're going to be happy and comfortable. Okay? Sometimes that means exploring maybe slightly less selective options. Sometimes that means explaining why it is that we don't believe that you'd be a particular fit at a certain university. Okay, so we try to keep you grounded through this whole process. We want you to be aspirational, but we also want you to have and retain options. All right, we're going to be a cheerleader and an advocate for you to universities. We write references, that kind of thing. But ultimately, we are an advisor, we are a guide, we are a resource through this process. Okay, we want to ask you questions. We want to make sure that you are thinking about the things you need to be thinking about when you need to be thinking about them. And then later on down the line, when it comes to the actual applications, we're an administrator. We're the ones that send the documents. We're the ones that write your references. We're the ones that make sure those applications go off to the universities, or your applications go off to universities in good time. The family's role, we as family, as parents, we want you to be optimistic. We want you to encourage your students. We want you for them to reach for something that is aspirational. But we also, want them to, have options and be willing to explore lots of different opportunities and places to study. Occasionally you'll be a chauffeur, you'll be driving them around to university visits, you'll be paying for flights potentially to go and visit a university and go and visit an option. We want our students to be able to access some of the in-person opportunities that many of their previous peers haven't been able to do. So you might find yourself driving around the country through May, June, July, August, or perhaps traveling to see places next year. We want you to be a partner in this process, not a crutch. And what I mean by that is we don't want your students, the young people, to rely on you to be doing things for them. We want you as parents to be supporting them and encouraging them. But at every stage of the process to reduce anxiety around this, large decision. Really, it is a big decision. Just to highlight that a little bit more, here are a few different things that we're going to ask you to do and what we expect you to do over the next year or two as we work with you. So we want you guys to think carefully and deeply about you and about your options. We want you to take an active approach in researching. All right, that means online researching, that means attending open days, that means logging on to digital webinars, and we ask you to do things on time when we ask you to do them, because that will save you time much later on down the line, and it will try to reduce a little bit of the anxiety that many of your seniors will be feeling right now. I'm sure you're having conversations with them. Our role in this is to encourage you to explore. We're going to give you options, and we're going to ask you to go away and research them. All right, there might be things you've never thought about before. There might be universities you've never heard of before. There might be courses that you weren't sure even existed. But that's our job. Our job is to broaden your minds, open your horizons, and we ask you to think deeply about all of these options we suggest. All right, we take things that you tell us and we think, this could be an option that might suit you. You need to go away and look at it. Okay. We ask you sometimes challenging and powerful questions. What I mean by that is, what does success look like for you? Okay. Where do you want to be in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? Okay. Questions that ask you to think and reflect on you and what you're looking for in the future. I mentioned already before that we're a guide, we're a resource. You have to use us. Think of us as a textbook. Okay, we can contain all of the information, but you're the one that has to open us and read us, right? In a weird kind of way. And of course, throughout this whole process, we're here to support your well-being. We understand this is a stressful, challenging experience. We will impose deadlines, but those deadlines are for good reason and to ensure that things don't build up towards the end of or towards the start of your senior year, and that you can manage your time in your senior year effectively. Parents, family, some information for you as well to think about. We want you to ask questions. We want you to encourage wide and deep research, beyond the things that maybe you've heard of or the places that you studied. There are so many different options that we would like your young people to explore. All right. We ask you to help with personal organisation, with meeting deadlines, with travel to go and visit universities as well, go and think about career paths, go and potentially visit employers, maybe do interviews, that kind of thing. We also really ask you to be honest about your finances and your expectations. We really think it's important that students have boundaries in this process, and that those boundaries might be geographical, they might be financial boundaries. So please, parents, think about those boundaries, what is realistic and what isn't for you as a family, and have an honest conversation about those with your young people. We obviously ask family to encourage your young people to engage with us and to complete things and tasks on time. And we will share those deadlines with you via email and in our conversations as well as we move forward. So we thought we'd put together a short timeline just to explain the kind of things that we expect over the course of the next year, from where you are now, midway through grade 11, to where your seniors currently are actually submitting their applications, and the kind of things we need to be thinking about. So let's go through these in kind of chronological order. Right now, this period should be all about that self-reflection. We're going to come on to some of the questions you need to be asking yourself, and some of the questions that we're going to ask you about when we eventually start those conversations in January. But we want you to think about what you want, what you're looking for, what you might want to study, and so that when we meet, we can help you define those ideas in a little bit more clarity. All right. We want you to start thinking about different destinations, different countries, different types of institution, higher education systems that might suit you best. We'll see later that the US system is vastly different to the UK system, and they don't really suit everyone and what certain individual needs are. So we want you to think about different countries, and as we get into things, we'll be inviting speakers and we'll be running sessions on particular destinations and how to, what the education systems are like. So that's kind of what we need to be thinking about from now through kind of March, April time. All right. Then after meeting with us, we're going to start giving you suggestions to actually, of individual institutions to go away and have a look at, to dig into, to read websites, to attend webinars, to perhaps come in and chat to here at our university visits. So we've still got some happening right now. Obviously, lots of university visits happening. So if you are in grade 11, you are potentially interested in those institutions, please do come by and chat to them. But there will be opportunities to attend fairs. There's a big UK UCAS fair, and there's a big international universities fair here in the springtime, so March, April. And that's really about digging into university-specific institutions, right? And then through March, April, May, we start writing. So we go into your English classes. We're going to start giving workshops on how to write the written components of a university application. We're going to talk about CVs because that can help with obviously career and job applications as well. And we're going to talk about those kind of personal statements and cover letters, letters of motivation throughout the spring term, with the expectation that you have written your first drafts by the summer of grade 11. All right, so you can come back in a strong position for grade 12. And then really, over the summer break, that's when universities open their doors. We see them open days starting in May, June, and then going right through the summer break, finishing kind of September time. This is when you need to be going and visiting these institutions, the places that you've dug into that you think, oh yes, I would like to find out more about. And then, the end goal to be submitting applications through October, November, December next year. So that's what our timeline looks like. That's what we need to be thinking about when. And please don't leave it all till last minute. We don't want you in October, November having to go and visit universities because, well, frankly, most universities have stopped visiting at that time. So just to be aware of, the timeline that we're looking at.
So this leads me to talk about some self-reflection. And so what the most important thing for you to be aware of about your time in grade 11 is this is the time for you to spend doing your self-reflection, making sure you're aware of where you're at, what you're trying to achieve, and therefore then how to achieve that. So in order to make sure you're meeting your goals, you need to know, first of all, who you are, what your strengths are, what you're trying to achieve, what you want to do. Okay, so you need to really spend a little bit of time thinking about why you might want to attend university. I want to attend university because, come up with a range of different reasons. If these reasons are not well thought out of, and if there's no clear plan as to why you might be interested in going to university, then you'll just be going through the motions without a very clear focused reasoning behind doing so, which can impact and affect your application. So please just take some time to reflect and try to realize to yourself why it is that you want to go to university. Make a list, maybe. This may help. And then what kind of environment you'd like to study. So you want to study in an environment such as, and make a little note of the different kinds of areas in which you would like to study in, environments that you'd like to study in. Do you like studying or working in an environment where there is a strong emphasis on practical application of your knowledge? Do you like learning by doing, for example? Something like hospitality, where you learn a range of not only the skills behind that industry, but also the business side of things and strategy development and so on, right? That can be done in a hospitality university where you've got a practical application approach in learning, where you've always got that constant context towards something you're doing, or even a business school that has something similar where you've got learning by doing in a practical way, always with a context to the learning. Or could it be, for example, a learning by doing kind of engineering university, such as somewhere like Teddy in London, where you learn to do things such as back engineer products rather than start with abstract ideas first? Or would you like an environment where you're a little bit more independent with self-studying? Or do you want a small kind of liberal arts style campus, for example, where you've got smaller class sizes similar to what you already have in ACS? Or would you like a large campus feel, for example, that you'd find in public universities in the US, for example? So there are a whole range of different environments in which you'll be able to find yourself in. It could be one that has a specialisation in a particular course or area of study, like those that you find in UK universities. Could it be an environment that allows you to explore a range of different courses or areas of study, like you'll find in the US and Canada? Think about the environment in which you'd like to be in. Is it one that's focused on, for example, critical thinking and developing transferable skills or thinking skills as well? All these options are there in front of you. So taking time to consider what works for you and what you would like is really important. Then start thinking about your career. Do you want a particular career in business or economics or engineering or something else? So take a little bit of time to write a list of the reasoning behind why you want to be in a particular career, okay? Because it's the mission of the college counselling offices to assist students to find the right fit, as we've talked about earlier on as well. So in order to find the right fit, you need to know what you're looking at or what you're looking to try to achieve, but also you need to know ultimately yourself in order to match into the jigsaw puzzle of all of the different ranges of the right fitting university. So how can we self-reflect? Well, this is where Morrisby comes into play. It's a good starting point, at least. In Morrisby, you will find that you have got a little section called About Me. And in About Me, there is a whole range of different aspects of your character, your learning, your interests. All of these areas of you will have in your profile. So this is the example of a student's profile here. You can see that we have got aptitudes, interests, work style. So each student will work in a different way, different work environments, what kind of places and environments you would work best in. Personality as well, because everybody has their own different personalities, and therefore, as a result, they will have different fits and different ways and skills and attainments and ways to go about certain activities. As well as their learning style will also impact some of the choices that you're going to be looking at as well. You've also got further study interests and priorities in there as well. So do actually take some time in Morrisby. Look over your aptitudes. Work out whether or not you'd need to retake the questionnaire. You may have taken this questionnaire. You may have taken, for example, your interest questionnaire in grade 10. And your interest may have changed. So please do spend some time looking through each different aspect, like your interests, like your aptitudes, and decide, is there an option for me to retake the questionnaire there? Does this set of data truly reflect where I'm at and who I am? And if it's no, and there's the option to retake the questionnaire, do retake the questionnaire so this profile does accurately reflect you, okay? But it's not just a case of making sure that your profile is fitting you. The whole process of you actually reflecting and working out where you're at and where your strengths lie and where your interests are is the main important thing to do. So on the right, you can see a series of questions that we want you as students in grade 11 to be considering throughout grade 11. What are your strengths and interests? Think about what's attainable and realistic for you. So for example, then you find that your mathematical or numeric abilities are particularly low, and then it doesn't matter how many times you take it. For example, you may not quite be in the right place mathematically for you to then do certain things such as finance or engineering, which are really key for you to have strength in engineering. So do think about what's attainable and what's realistic. Think about what you love and what you're passionate about. How do you see yourself moving forward in the future? Consider the range of different styles of workplaces that there are on offer for certain types of industries, okay? Do spend some time reading about those, but we'll get to how you'll do that in a bit later on. But for now, thinking about yourself, self-reflection on, do you have a learning style? Do you see yourself in a particular place in the future? Is there a particular workplace or style that's suited to you? And what are your personal priorities? In the past, if you'd have asked me as an 18 or 19-year-old young person, and what were my priorities would have been very different to what they are now. Things such as stability proved to be more important to somebody in their middle years than, for example, somebody who's just starting out in the beginning of their career. So spend some time looking at those priorities, that priority questionnaire as well, and reading through that, okay? So once you've spent some time reflecting on you, because grade 11 is all about what do you want, what are your strengths, and then start thinking about the research. So you then move on to research what options you have in front of you in terms of careers and choices that you have. So on the next tab in Morrisby, you'll find My Choices. So there's a careers tab there, and it gives you a chance to start reading through all the various careers. It is a starting point. It doesn't mean that the list of careers that are created as a result of your profile does not mean that that's a definitive list. It has a section on the left where you can focus upon your aptitudes or your interests. It also has the chance for you to delete and explore new ideas, put favorites in. Okay, so this is very much what I would call a dynamic list. It's the chance for you to, in effect, get started on that whole exploration stage of what careers are out there, especially after you've spent some time self-reflecting and thinking about what areas and what things that you would be good at and what you're not good at and what you're interested in. Those can now be incorporated as you read about these different careers for you to be more informed over whether or not certain careers would be attainable or whether or not they would be worth you kind of looking into, researching even further, and if not, pursuing for the future. So it's a dynamic list. It's a changeable list. It's not a list that you just get and you say, well, Morrisby doesn't work for me because this list of careers that are given don't accurately reflect me. It's a chance for you to now make a start on clicking on each one, reading about each different career, and then deciding whether or not they go into your favorites or not. So here you can see what one of the profiles looks like for one of the careers here. Okay, there's lots of information in there. There's an overview over what the career is, some key facts, what it's like to work there day to day, what it takes skill-wise and motivation and determination-wise, all these transferable skills that would be used in that career, as well as some videos and also some pathways into each of these different careers, which you can see on the right-hand side, bottom right-hand side of this screen. So you can see step by step what would be needed to be done from your side of things at school and then moving into higher education or university, college, like what you would need to do and what kind of different styles of degrees that you'd need to do in order to be in that particular career. Okay, so the whole idea is as you self-reflect, you reflect in grade 11, key message on your strengths, your interests, and then you move into spending time researching, because this is the time for you to do all of your researching in grade 11. Okay, and before you start researching the universities, it's really good for you to be aware of the end goal in mind. What kind of careers out there would accurately work for you? What would you be interested in doing in the future? So thinking of the end goal in mind and then working backwards of all the steps that you need to do in order to achieve that is key. And that's where Morrisby really works, especially when you can see that we have the pathways here in each individual career as well. So self-reflection, research, careers, okay? Then moving on, once you have done that and you've got a general idea of certain careers that may be of interest to you, the next thing that you start to do when you're in grade 11 is to start thinking about you in university. What would you be looking for in the university? We've talked about what we do in terms of reflection and research for careers. Now we're looking at reflection and research for universities. So factors that might be important to you when you go to university, that's the reflection bit. What things are you looking for within a university? And there's a whole range of different factors that can affect how would you categorize which certain universities would be more preferential than others for yourself. But this is the time, and it's key. The more informed you are at this stage of what you want from a university, the more likely you're going to find a place in which you'll be happy in and therefore more likely to be successful in. So think about the type of university. It's geographical location. What courses are they offering? How do they offer those courses? The setting, the size, how selective are they? What's the cost? Certain costs may hinder certain applications, right? The world in and around and outside of the classroom is also key to consider, as well as housing and facilities. So here, this slide really talks about priorities in a lot more depth. So I like to get my grade 11s to start with this particular slide when it comes to deciding what they want from a university. Going through each one of these different areas, there could be more priorities or factors that affect whether or not you want a particular university. But these are just some that we've highlighted. So we've got course, skills, career development. Do they have a co-op work placement? Student support and access. These are areas in which you can ask your college counsellor where in the resources you can learn more about when you have your one-to-one meetings. Wider life, finances, student satisfaction and feedback is really key. So you can see there's a whole array of different things that go into the decision-making process when you're looking at whether or not a particular group of universities on your list are actually a true reflection of places where you would be happy. Okay? So, spend time going through highlighting the 4 most important ones of these, and then 4 most important factors here. And then this will help to tie into something called your research tracker, which we will talk about a little bit more later on. So, just to give you a general overall idea of places around the world, you can see from this that the US is the most exploratory, and you can see that the UK is the most specialised. That means you specialise in a subject or a specific area very early on when you're looking at UK courses. You apply to a course, a specific course that you study in depth for 3 years. On the other side, you have the US, which is where you spend 4 years. Quite a few of those years, 2 of those years, you're just exploring a whole range of different courses. And then from there, then you're deciding later on, after that exploratory stage, which one you're going to major in and potentially minor in as well. So moving slightly away from the most exploratory stage, slightly to the left, and you've got Canada. With Canada, you apply to a faculty. In the faculty, you can explore a range of different courses within the faculty. So, for example, you may be in the Faculty of Arts, which will include things such as languages and or social studies. You could be learning about psychology 1 minute, history the next in the next class, and so on. So you get the idea. There is more scope than a specialised course in the UK, where you can choose to study a range of different courses and subjects. However, it's less exploratory than the US because it's within a faculty rather than across all faculties and schools. Okay? So as you move slightly more to the left, you get more and more specialization, more and more focus on a particular course or faculty. Okay? This is important to consider when you're thinking, what do I want from a university? If you're a student that is very focused on, for example, wanting to do engineering, and you know that's something you want to do, and you want to also find somewhere that may be a little bit cheaper than the US, for example, then the UK is quite a good location for focusing on that, because you're clear about what you want your studies to be, which is a specialised programme, a course that you start straight away in, as well as other factors such as being potentially closer to your family and so on, as well as tuition fees being at a vastly different rate to many places in the US. So once you have spent time considering what's important for you from a university, what the factors are in your choice-making decisions, then comes the research. So we've had careers, self-reflection, and research the careers. Now it's self-reflection with what's important from a university, and now it's the research part for the university side of things. So how do we start researching? We start researching with something called Bridge U. So let's start with, what is Bridge U? Bridge U is a student-friendly resource which has pretty much every country represented. Very good for university research and searches, and it helps you to develop a shortlist. So not only is it the system that we use to help to search for universities, but it's really key, which will become more important to you next year in grade 12 when you do your applications, because it's only in grade 12 you start your applications, not in grade 11. Grade 11 is, for your information, for self-reflection, careers, research, university research, and so on. So then you develop your list. The following year, when you're actually applying in grade 12, that's when we send off documents. We use Bridge U to send off those documents. So it's really important that you keep up to date with your Bridge U accounts. You use it to help explore and spend a bit of time kind of like learning about different universities. This is the best way to start learning about the different universities that are out there. But it also helps us to track the progress of your A, research, and B, kind of what you're looking at, what your goals are, as well as us later on from January onwards talking in our one-to-one meetings, of course. But also it helps us to track historical data as well. So when you guys come to us with questions over kind of how many students have you had going to particular institutions, what kind of GPAs were they getting in order to be successful? These are questions that we get quite often, and we often draw upon the historical data which we get from Bridge U. So as a result, it's very important for you guys to be aware that Bridge U is very key in data, as well as making sure that your documents are sent off in grade 11, as well as you starting your research process in as well. So a little bit more about Bridge U. What's going to happen is you are going to receive an email to your email account, okay? It will say pat@bridgeu.com. When that comes, and it's not coming yet, but when it does come, what you need to do is click the links on there, and then that will take you through to you setting up your own account. And then what you'll do is you will be taken to a profile builder. You need to then start answering the questions that are in your profile builder, okay? And that will help feed in that self-reflection and preferences from a university that you've already done and considered, and place that into your profile. And then that helps to give you a range of matches that help to align with your preferences, okay? Now, this presentation will also be available as a presentation in the description below of this YouTube video. And so as a result, you will be able to then click on any links that we're sharing within this presentation. So you would have had the Cobham College Counselling email that we send out, which is from all the college counsellors in the department. You would have had links to 2 particular videos. And those videos are how to make your profile, which is what we're talking about now, how to go through answering the questions in Bridge U to make sure that your profile matches with your preferences, as well as how to then research universities. So do spend some time after this clicking in there. Once you have your Bridge U email sent to you, once you've clicked on that and developed your profile, you'll then have the chance to independently start collating an idea of a range of different universities that may be of interest to you, okay? So your question might be as to, what do we do? How do we prepare between now and when we get to see our college counsellor? This is it. This is once the email comes through from Bridge U, you have the chance to now start independently researching your universities and seeing what's out there. And then after that, discussing them with us, and then we can kind of move forwards and learn more about your goals then from January onwards. But between now and January, this is a very big task that you could be spending time doing, okay? Now, you can also make notes inside the platform for each university. But, as I've mentioned before, there's also a tracker that you can use. And here is a link to the tracker you can use. Now, what is that link? Or what is a tracker? A tracker basically helps you bring together all the information that you are researching in universities in one place. And we've got one for you there, okay? Usually the best time to start using that from January onwards when we are working in our individual meetings, okay? But I'm just putting that there for a link in case anybody wants to make a start on that independently. As we've learnt, it's important for the self-reflection and the research for both careers and for universities. But how do we then do that? Obviously there's Bridge U and there's Morrisby for that. But there are a whole array of other different resources that are available out there. You have got the college library, so the college counselling specific materials in our offices. So you can see here that we have a range of different pamphlets, brochures, and other reading materials around our office, okay? So there is that. There are us as college counsellors. Do see us as resources as well. Also, there are university visits that have been happening, as well as fairs that will be happening as well. We've had some mini fairs, which a lot of you have been to. We've had specific individual universities coming in to speak to a handful of students each time as well, which has been great. So see them as a resource, see those visits as resources. But also we have not only the in-person visit, but we also have virtual visits as well. So here are the places you find out information on that. In Schoology, you'll find in the calendar when those visits are happening. We have a newsletter that goes out, the parent newsletter. We add in what visits are happening in there. There is the notice board outside the front of the college counselling offices as well. We have a whole array of different areas where you can find out what's happening. You can also see university tours as a resource as well. So, spending time working out, once you've done a bit of research, which places you want to actually physically go and have a look at. There's nothing like going to see universities in person rather than just on a screen with a range of different images. So there's nothing that helps more than to actually physically see the place. Also, beyond tours, which can happen later on, we have web-based search tools, many of which can be found on Schoology. So we've got Bridge U, but there's also College Board, and in College Board you have Big Future, which helps find information on different universities. There's Princeton Review, there's Niche, there's College Vine, there's Campus Reel and UVisit, which those last two allow you to have kind of like a virtual idea of what it's like to be on the campus itself. Whereas places like College Vine and Niche and Princeton Review give you an idea in terms of words and in terms of statistics. But these are all things that we can explore together from January onwards, just letting you know that there's a whole array of different resources out there available to you, also including things such as obviously your Morrisby, but also you can go on open days and taster days and check the resources in Schoology, because those resources are really carefully designed and thought out, mapped out per grade level for you to use. So use Bridge U to research the universities, use Morrisby to help self-reflect as well as research your careers, but also use Schoology to find an array of different other resources to also help that university research. So a question that we often get asked is, what are universities looking for, right? So this is a slide that is from the NACAC organization, and we're going to look specifically at US universities initially, or colleges. So this drew upon data from a range of different universities and colleges in the US, and it asked them, what are you looking for? What's the most important thing from an application to make an application turn into a successful candidate. So the first three at the top, we have SAT, ACT, strength of curriculum, grades in all courses and grades in college prep courses. If we had to combine all of those into one title, that would be basically grades stroke academics. So obviously the most important thing is the grades that you get, as well as choosing courses of academic rigor and challenge. Okay. The next one down then becomes the writing, so when you apply to a US university, you have writing for you have an essay, a personal essay, a Common App essay, and so that obviously is a chance for you to share your voice and your values, and that is very important as well. That gives a little bit more of the other side, past grades, in a holistic application. Then obviously things such as the counselor's recommendation and teacher's recommendation are really key as well. But then also a student demonstrating interest. So how can a student demonstrate interest? Spend time on their website, come to university visits with specific questions, come to fairs, engage with them in the events that they have as well, basically is the answer to that. That's how to demonstrate your interest in the university. And so then there's a range of other things such as interview and work experience and so on, okay? But there you can see some very clear defined data. And that goes from grade 9, 10, 11 and 12. However, the most important grade is grade 11 because that is the grade in which we bring the GPA and use the GPA in order to calculate the GPA and send to those universities. So this year, not only is it about self-reflection and research, it's also about grades, getting those grades, okay? Now, the majority of universities will have their own different way of kind of using our GPA to their own system. I'm not going to get into this in too much depth other than the fact that they have their own mechanism to look at how much weighting that they place on different grades that you've studied in the courses that you've got in those different grades. That means grade 9, 10, 11 and 12, okay? So bear that in mind, that grades are really important. Now, when looking at a UK university or a university outside of the US, also very similar things will be looked at. They will look at your transcript. In the UK, they will also ask you for predicted grades. So you won't always be asked for a transcript, but some places in Europe will ask for that, and in Canada. But predicted grades is the main focus for UK universities, which come out in grade 12 after you've had a considerable amount of time demonstrating the academic level at which you're at. Also, GPA is important as well. But basically what will happen is you will have not a counsellor recommendation letter, you will have a reference that will combine all of those teacher comments and inputs about you as well. But this is stuff to think about later on. The US have individual teacher and counsellor recommendations. The UK will have a combined one that includes teacher comments with the counsellor's writing as well. So all in all, you can see also that extracurricular activities, community service, work experience are also included in what universities look for as well. So do spend time making sure that you're getting actively involved in the community, making sure you're doing your best to serve A, the community, and B, develop your skills, whether they be transferable skills, specific skills, communication skills, time management skills. All of these things can then be reflected upon in writing later, but also it's important to kind of be involved in order to show what you would be like as a member of the community in the university in which you're going to as well. So these are the things that universities are looking for. GPA, transcripts, predicted grades, rigor of content, extracurricular activities, how you get on in the community, and demonstrating interest for the US.
In an effort to find out a little bit more about exactly which universities look for what, we obviously invite lots of institutions into campus, right? So every week there is often 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes every day of the week, universities visiting. It's very, very busy in and out of our college counselling office. Here's a brief list of everything that's coming up just after the midterm break. So the last Sunday of the midterm break is actually a virtual event. So if you're interested in potentially in studying in the Netherlands, went back to what I mentioned earlier about exploring destinations, this would be a really great place to start. Then we've got 2 French institutions coming in, Sciences Po and ESSEC. Sciences Po is obviously a world-renowned political science and economics institution, ESSEC being a business school. Falmouth University, an amazing creative arts institution in Cornwall in the southwest of England. And then another external event on Saturday, the Study in Australia Fair on the 12th. And the following Saturday, not on this list, is a Study in Canada Fair. So if you're really thinking about different destinations, now is one of the times to really start exploring and chatting to different institutions. So please check our visit guide. We put our visits on our Schoology calendar. We put them on a document that looks like this, linked on our Schoology page. And they also go in the newsletter every week, a week ahead. So please keep an eye out for all of our different university visits. We've also got lots of upcoming events over the next 6 months as well. So just to highlight a few of these to you, the kind of more whole school or larger scale events. On the 7th of November, we are going to be running an after school workshop specifically for you grade 11 students and some grade 10s, but mostly for you guys, on this idea of fit, on the idea of examining your priorities and thinking about those priorities in context of the university search. All right, so please do come along to that. We're going to be sharing some tools and resources that Mr. Forrester has already mentioned, but we're going to be digging into them a little bit more specifically. So that'll be after school. That'll be 3:45 to 4:45 in the ILC. Then those 2 fairs that I mentioned in central London, they're not ACS events. They're just available for anyone living in and around London. In December, this is the big one, we're going to be allocating college counsellor allocations. We mentioned that Bekinkosi Sibanda's joining us from January, so we'll be allocating college counsellors then, and then we'll be sharing initial communications and a request to complete a kind of quick Google form to share your initial thoughts and what you've been thinking about between now and December. Then we begin those one-to-one conversations in January. We're going to be digging into more destination-specific information towards the end of January with a view to really exploring our priorities and thinking about our options, thinking about what we're looking for. In March, we're going to be talking about recommendation letters and writing CVs. We'll also be digging into March, April, your English classes and talking about the written components of the application. And then in April, there's 2 big universities fairs. So on Thursday, the April 20th, we're going to be taking a trip to the UCAS fair in Farnborough, which is all UK universities. And then on the 25th, the following week, we're going to be hosting an international universities fair here on campus, which will be great. So watch this space for all of that information. All that information will be forthcoming, but we just wanted to highlight them to you before we finish today. So we're coming up to the end of our talk today. I know we really appreciate you sticking with us. But in terms of next steps, that self-reflection, I know we keep banging on about it, but it's really, really important, right? Considering your strengths, your interests, getting on Morrisby, looking at potential career options, looking at what success means to you and what might be important to you in this search process. I'd say the most important thing is to be happy, but really think about what would make you happy in this. Think about the things that you might want in an institution. Mr. Forrester went into a lot of detail earlier on about the things that you need to be thinking about, the things that we're going to be asking you about, and also start exploring, right? Start exploring destinations, maybe attend a fair or 2, maybe come along to some university visits here in the school and ask questions. What are you looking for? What grades do you require? What kind of environment does your campus or your university offer to students? What sort of learning opportunities and career opportunities do you have? So please do come down, pick up some prospectuses. We've got lots you can see behind us. So please do come and take some of our literature. Now should be all about you and all about starting to explore. Keep an open mind. Don't be fixed in your ideas. We really want you to be explorative in this process. Just to highlight a few words of wisdom from our grade 12 students. So these are the students that graduated last year, that they suggested to our grade 11s last year, and we think it's important to pass this message on to you. So I'll leave them up there, but it's really about being organised. It's about not procrastinating. It's about thinking about you and having an open mind, right? Picking a variety of schools, staying on top of all of these different tasks. And I think that's really, really important messaging. I promise you, we have not... these come straight from the horse's mouth. We ask a Google form every year. What would you explain? What advice would you give to a junior? And these are the kind of things that they come up with. So final message really from us is that, together this is a partnership, your family, the student, the applicant, you guys, and us. And if we all communicate, if we work together, you can do it. You can explore all of these different options. You can put together competitive applications to places that you want to study. Obviously, this comes with, keeping up with schoolwork, and those grades are probably the most important aspect of this whole, process. But, we can do it as long as we remain engaged, remain proactive and organised, and that we do the things we ask of you. You do the things we ask of you when we ask you to do it. So communicate with us when those meetings go live in January. Book the meetings. We want to meet you. Please don't wait until May to meet with us for the first time. We're going to be writing your references, so it's important that we get to know you as much as possible, and think about yourself, think about what you're looking for, and we will start this conversation and start this process together. Thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate your time. Have a lovely evening.